Gigi Robinson is a force to be reckoned with, for real. Everything you need to know about astrology, your sexuality, how to interact with people on this basis, how to set up a kinky festival like a boss, and all the while raising a daughter the sex positive way? What? Stay tuned. Welcome to the Spread Podcast.
Yay! We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
I have to keep that part too. Okay. Thank you so much, Gigi Robinson, for being a part of the spread. All the way from, I'm assuming you're in Atlanta.
I am.
All the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yay! I'm so happy to be on the spread. Thank you so much for having me. I am Gigi Robinson. I'm the owner and founder of IamLivingAlign.com, which is my online activation community, and we discuss things such as intuitive astrology. We also discuss life coaching and how to just make your everyday your best days, and then also just how to round things off with understanding sacred sexuality. I'm originally from Tallulah, Louisiana, which is northern Louisiana, really close to Vicksburg, Mississippi. And after college, I decided to move to Atlanta and just start my business and start my music career, and I've been here ever since.
Ooh. So there's a few words that are popping up that I'm pretty sure a lot of spreaders would want to know more about.
Okay.
And one is sacred sexuality. What is that?
So sacred sexuality is using sexual energy with intention. So we all know that sexual energy can create babies, they create memories, and hey, they create even some things that we don't want, which is, sometimes STIs, STDs, and those things. But if we just took 5 seconds to really think about what actually comes out of sexual energy, then we should be a little bit more responsible with what we do, with that sexual energy, which is we need to have more honest conversations about the things that we desire, the things that we want, the things that we want to try to make in our lives happen, so that when we start to now engage in sexual energy with one another, we have intention. So if I'm telling you what I desire, things that I want to manifest for my life, and you're telling me what you desire and the things that you want to manifest for your life, then when we're coming together in sexual energy, we can use our vibrations to make those things happen. So sexual energy or sacred sexuality is just not just using sexual energy only for an orgasm, which orgasms are great and we all need them, right? Mm-hmm. But we can do a lot more with the sexual energy besides just have orgasms.
Ooh, I love that. Let me ask you something, because this is your line of work, obviously. I've heard, I was actually having a discussion with this lady that I had met. Was meeting her for the first time at this party, and she must have been maybe like in her mid-40s, headed towards 50 possibly, and she was in her currently in her second marriage, and had just had her first child with her second husband. When she was in her marriage with her first husband, she said they tried everything, and they were not able to conceive. And she was sure that she was the problem and she wasn't able to get pregnant. So, things didn't work out with her first husband, and they broke up, and then she remarried, and almost instantly she got pregnant with her second husband. I hear you laughing. Please share what those giggles are about.
Well, I'm laughing because it's a very common story, and I think what we don't realize is that sometimes you have many different factors that come into play with situations like this. One factor can be the fact that maybe one or both parties that are, involved are just not simply ready for children. And even though they may be saying to the other person, oh, yeah, I'm ready, secretly deep down, they don't desire to have children, because maybe they fear certain things. Because when we're in relationships with people, and this is kind of where some of the astrology comes in, some partners that we get with are not for children. They're not for marriage. It's not even for long term. Some stuff is just coming up for us to heal some things. It could be from generational past, or it could be something that you need to understand right now about what's going on in your life so that you can prepare yourself for the next stage. So sometimes we think, oh, we're broken, when we're in certain relationships, oh, I can't have a baby, and blah. And really it's because that relationship is not what what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be working on other parts of your life besides that. But because we don't really understand astrology, we don't understand ourselves a lot, then when we get into relationships, sometimes we try to force things to happen that just will never happen no matter what you try to do, because it's just not destined for that relationship.
Could you talk a little bit more about astrology and sextrology?
Yes, or what I like to call fuckstrology,
Ooh,
right?
I prefer that.
Yeah. Yes, I got a chance to teach that at Sex Down South last year. So I really love the concept of merging sexuality and merging astrology together, because everything is in the chart. I say that to people all the time when they come to me and they have these questions and they're like, oh, Gigi, I don't know what to do, or oh, Gigi, I want, and I'm like, it's in the chart. So is our sexual habits, our sexual drive, and the energy that we use to go about sexuality is all in our astrology chart. So one of the ways that I show people how to learn your own sexual language is to look at certain aspects in the chart. So first, what you will have to do, if you've never heard of getting your astrology chart done or have never had an astrology chart, what you would do first is you will go and pull up something called a natal chart. There's free tools all on the internet. You can literally just Google search it, type it in, and put in your birthday information. You'll put in your birthday, you'll put in your birth time and your city and state. And what it's going to do is pull up a composite reading to let you know all of your signs. So what do you mean, Gigi, all of your signs? Well, we're literally every single sign from Aries, which is the first zodiac sign, all the way to Pisces. We're every last one. But your natal chart shows you how much of each sign you are and in what planet or what house you happen to be those particular signs. So you'll first need that. Then once you pull up that chart, what you will look at for your sexual energy or your sexual basis, you will look at your Mars energy and you will look at your Venus energy. You'll also look at your moon sign energy. Why would you look at those in particular? Well, your moon is your emotions. So we're literally around here like asking and requesting things because based off our desires, right? Where your moon energy is what's governing all the desires that you have. So if you know and understand your moon sign first, then you'll understand why you have the desires that you have. That's number one. And then when you start to look at your Mars sign is your sex drive, but it's also how you go about initiating sex. So for me, I'll just use me for an example. Like yes, I have a Pisces Mars energy, right? So even though I'm an Aries sun sign, and my rising sign is Leo, so I look very fiery and I look very sexual all the time. You know, so one of those things I had to battle with growing up. But what I understand was, even though I look very sexual in nature, I have a Mars Pisces. So having that Pisces Mars sign mean I don't initiate sex. So I can talk about it all day. I'm a sex educator. Like, I talk about the nastiest of the nastiest things, right, cats? But it's like, I'm never going to initiate it because having a Mars Pisces means that I want to make sure that my partner is comfortable before I initiate in sex. And the only way for me to be completely sure of that is if my partner initiates sex. Now, once you initiate it, we're going to have a really great time. But I'm not necessarily the initiator. So when it comes down to my partners, I had to explain this to them because a lot of them expected me to be this very fiery and aggressive person when it comes down to sexuality. But I'm not aggressive at all. I just speak aggressively, but I don't initiate aggressively. So with me being able to translate that to my partners, now they understood if I was having conversations about sex or maybe like I was showing certain signs of wanting sex, they knew that that was the go ahead for them to initiate so that it'll let me know that they're ready so I could be ready, because that's just how my Mars energy moves. So when you look at your Mars sign, it lets you know how you are when it comes down to initiating sex, or if you are an initiator at all. You know what I'm saying? So, and looking at our sun signs is not enough basis for that. A lot of people will try to do that. Oh, I'm a Scorpio, so we're the freakiest. But if you're not a Scorpio in your Mars energy, then you may be freaky, but you're not going to initiate no freakiness. So it's things like this that we need to really understand. And then there's your Venus sign, right? So your Venus sign is how you expect love. So how you want people to love you. So I have a Venus in Aquarius, right? So I'm real eclectic. I'm very weird. The way that I want love has a lot to do with understanding of my mind. So I want people to have great conversations with me. I want us to talk. And the more we talk about really weird and really deep stuff, the more turned on I get, the more I receive that as love and wanting to even engage or initiate in sex. But if somebody is just coming at me just aggressively straight on the sexual tip, even though I teach sexual education, I'm turned off. So to me, knowing F&ckstrology allows you to have better sex. It allows you to allow your partners to see you in a different type of way than just based off your sun sign, which is so inaccurate when we do that.
Fuck love languages. F&ckstrology is where it's at.
Yes, it is.
And I can understand, like, if anybody met you in your place of work, then they would expect for you to be the person that initiates that sex. I can understand how that can be a bit of a, like, I can see how any of your partners could be like, it's not what I was expecting.
Yes, and very confused. So before I was even getting really in depth into astrology, this would be one of the disconnects between me and my partners early on in my life when I first started to date. And I would have partners that would cheat on me, you know, and I didn't understand why they would cheat on me, because to me, I'm just so great at everything, right? You know, I'm really great at, you know, giving head. I'm really great at, you know, just whatever comes down to my partners, you know, because I, you know, don't consider myself, when it comes down to the genders that I deal with in love and mating, I don't go for that. I go for spiritual connections, right? So in having that be my basis of connecting, I didn't understand why, if I'm doing these great things to you and you tell me all the time how amazing I am, why are you cheating on me? Well, it was because I wasn't initiating things, so to them, they didn't feel desired, because I didn't understand what their languages were. I didn't understand that their Mars energy needed a little bit of someone who was aggressive. So me not being aggressive, you know, showed that, hey, you know, I wasn't loving them like they wanted to be loved. So understanding their love languages, even though sometimes I may not have been aggressive, if I had a partner who also shared, let's just say they had a Mars in Pisces too, then I know one of us is going to have to now be an initiator, right? So now I have to initiate, and then you have to initiate, because we both we're not comfortable with it, but because we love one another and we want to initiate in sex and do certain things, then we're going to take turns and working on our aspects, you know?
Ooh, preach. I want to go back a little bit.
Okay.
What was your childhood like? What was it like growing up? What kind of a home did you grow up in? I'm trying to see what led you to come into this space of even talking about sexuality and having all of these classes and platforms for people to learn. Like, what was it like for you?
I grew up in a very small town. I grew up very religious in Baptist community. My father was one of the head deacons of the church. My mother was the secretary of the church. So we were in church all the time. But it was a very weird environment. And what I mean by that is we went to church all the time, but my mother was already ahead of her time, which is, even though she took us to church all the time, she also always left room for free thought or free thinking, you know, and us being able to talk to her in certain ways. Even though she may have been very uncomfortable in those things, I could see that she was trying to progress forward her own DNA by just trying to be transparent and talking to us as much as she possibly could. So I don't know if there used to be this guy used to come to through the neighborhood. They used to sell encyclopedias or sell just these botanicas of just different type of encyclopedias. Along with it would have like some medical dictionaries, things like that, right? So the guy came to our house. I remember I was probably like 7 or 8, and my mom decided to invest in having a home encyclopedia with all these different books that had this medical, like small medical section, which was probably like 5 or 6 books. Now I read everything. Like I went through all the encyclopedias, glancing through things, but it was something of when I started to get into those medical dictionaries, it was certain things that stuck out to me. And what stuck out to me was STDs and STIs, and learning about the female body. Like, I was so interested in looking at what a vagina was and the parts of it. So early on, my mom just had these books there, and she just left them there. And I would go, if I was at home doing nothing, I would go get these books. And I started reading, and I read so much by the time I got into 9th grade, when my friends would come to me and tell me that they was having different things. Because I was a late bloomer, so I didn't start having sex until I was in the 10th grade. But all my friends were having sex. And so, but they were starting to get STIs and STDs and things. And so they would be like trying to confide in me, oh, I got this going on. I'd be like, hey, well, I read in this book that's probably this, and you probably should go get that checked out. So it wound up being me counseling about sexual health when I was in high school, because we didn't have it. We had it in 8th grade was the last time I remember them talking to us about like our bodies and sexual things like condoms and that kind of stuff. But after that, they took it out of schools. So me and a lot of my friends, a lot of us were lost. So I became that natural person that people can come and talk to about things that they were experiencing in their bodies after they were having sex for the first time. So it was a very, now that I think back at it, I'm like, okay, God, I see what you were doing the whole entire time. Because it's like it set me in place to be a counselor in school. Like, I was the head counselor at my high school from 9th grade until 12th grade. Wow. And I think a lot of that was because I educated myself on those medical dictionaries early on, just reading, so that's kind of was my foundation. My parents never, they knew that I wanted to do something in medicine, so they didn't, shun me off from doing it and studying those things. They was like, yeah, you should go ahead and do that. They thought it was really amazing that my friends would come to me for advice. It's like, oh, you're going to be a doctor. We're going to make sure you're going to be a doctor. And I thought I was too, but I'm a different type of doctor now. Like, I'm a spiritual doctor. I'm a spiritual doula, so.
Yes. Yeah. I like it.
Yes.
If you don't mind me asking, and you don't have to answer, how do you identify sexually? Are you, are you straight? Are you are you on the rainbow?
I am on the rainbow, Cass, and it's like that's been one of those questions for me. I even talked to my daughter about it. I have a 15-year-old, and helping her to understand like this whole gender identity thing. As for myself first, is also has helped her to figure it out for herself too. Because for me, I'll put it to you like this: the one that I maybe agree with the most is pansexuality. So like that's what I agree with the most. I identify, I'll say that I'm queer, but to be honest with you, even those things seem to feel like I'm still boxed in some type of way, and I think what I really feel more than anything is that I'm a lover of human spirit, and if we have the connection, I don't really care, what you may identify with when it comes down to your sex or your pronouns or those things. I just love who and what I love, and so I tend to, identify myself for the sake that we have to. It makes it easier for people to, connect to you, but I really don't identify with any of it. I just want to be a free spirit, or maybe two-spirited. I would say that we start to get into some of those things. I start to feel a little bit better because I'm like, okay, yeah, two-spirited feels good because I don't feel like I'm one or the other. I'm bisexual or I'm this. I don't feel that. I just feel like I love people and I love people who love me, you know? So.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can understand that. You have a daughter.
I do have a daughter.
Ooh, and she's 15. Ooh.
She is 15.
What's that journey been like?
You know what? It's been one of the most amazing journeys of my life. I didn't want children at all. And part of the reason why I didn't want children was because I didn't know how I would do, what type of mother I would be. Even though my mother was the greatest mother alive, I didn't feel like I would be so great at it. And she has come along to show me otherwise. I have been very transparent with her, as I would be with a very close friend. So she has seen, since me and her father have separated and went our own ways within the last 6 years, she's literally been like a best friend / roommate. Like, I go to her and I talk to her about my dating woes and things with business. Like, she's seen me, struggle in business and now go from a platform where we're doing really great, So it's just been really good to show her herself early. And what I mean by that, I feel like in my childhood, my parents did really well about only showing us the good stuff, only allowing us to celebrate with them when they're in their highest points. But when it came down to their lowest things, we didn't get a chance to see those things. So for me, I felt like when I was going through my lowest moments, I didn't feel like I had any type of resources to go to. I didn't feel like I can really tell my parents or talk to the people around me about what was really going on with me because I didn't see great examples of that. Mm-hmm. So I try to make it a point to allow her to see all of my stages, no matter what it is that I'm going through. Even when I'm confused, I go to her and be like, hey, this is, what I'm going through. What do you think? And not take for granted just because she's a 15-year-old that she doesn't know, and I want to understand her as a spirit and coming here to be not only my daughter, but an aid in my life. So that's the way, we have this, our relationship. So she can come and talk to me about anything. And she just did, girl, last weekend, she came and told me, and this is, I know we're doing a radio interview, and I know that, this is some personal stuff, but at the same time, I want to be transparent, right? But
some of this stuff is important because it's helpful to other people who are in similar situations. Yeah.
It is. But she came to me and told me she was ready to have sex. Like I told you, I'm a late bloomer. She's a late bloomer. And, but I gave her permission. I was like, hey, let me know when you're ready so that we can have a conversation about it. So she came, her and her boyfriend came together. And they sat down, and he told me that he would like to be the one to take my daughter's virginity. And I told him, I said, even though I appreciate you so much for coming to me, and talking to me about it along with my daughter, I was like, that's her gift. That's her body. That's her energy. And if she's decided, she only has it once too. So if she's decided that you are that person that she wants to give that gift to, then I support her 100%, And I think if we open the doors to our children to talk to us about what they are thinking about when it comes down to their sexuality, I think we can give them a platform to work it out, because I'm not here to make decisions for her. I had my own life. I had to do and make my own choices, and I want her to make those as well. And I want her to, do that without feeling like she's going to get in trouble or, just the things that we grew up with.
The pressure around it.
Yes. I want her I want this to be a great experience for her. And to me, in order to make that a great experience for her, I have to let her know that this is all her choice and allow her to feel empowered by that, So if I can offer that to any parents who is dealing with a child who is now coming into their sexuality or just learning how to have sex for the first time, first of all, teach them how to protect themselves. Like I've taught her how to use condoms. Like we sat down, I went and got bananas, and we put them on the condoms, and I did it a few times. I'll let her do it a few times. I asked her what she's comfortable with it. Those things that I think sometimes sexuality has been such a taboo subject because of our spirituality and, a lot of different reasons, cultural, those type of things. And we leave our children out here wondering what to do. And then when they mess up, then we get mad. And so that's not going to be on my watch. So we've had a really great, conversation about it. And so she hasn't had sex yet, but she's moving towards it. And I'm really excited for her. I'm excited that she is processing it and she doesn't have any pressure to it, like he's not pressuring her. And that she can really, I know, right? And that she can just make this be, a memory. I told her, I said, you got to be conscious that a lot of people scare children with STDs and pregnancy and those things. I said, what I want you to understand is that this is going to be a memory that you're never going to forget. And so memories to me are way heavier than all this other stuff they try to scare us with. So I just told her, take her time, make sure she's ready, and, let this be a memory or an experience that she'll always look back on and not regret,
Yeah. Ooh, I love it. I love it. And I don't fault the generation of our parents because
me either.
we're okay. We like in Kenya, we're like prior to two generations, like my age, I'm 36 years old. There was my parents who were learning from their parents who were the first generation of post-colonial people to have children. So our grandparents were, freedom fighters. And then they had children and they raised their children in so much anger, but obviously based off of the experiences that they had during the eras when we were colonized. And
Absolutely.
the way in which our parents have raised us is they've learned a lot of angry teachings and just like anger and yelling and sort of discipline because they are in the army or they fought or just that kind of aggro. And our generation is the first generation that is sort of releasing all of these trauma bonds and going into relationships of any kind, friendships, parenting, love relations, sexual relationships, romantic relationships. And we are learning how to let go of these traumatic things of the way we were raised and the way our grandparents were raised and the way, all of that, the generational trauma. And so it's kind of beautiful that you even allow yourself the grace, because that you didn't have the space, but the thing that you did get from your parents was better than what I'm sure your mother got from her parents. So she learned better. And then you're learning even better. Can you imagine what your daughter's kids, if she does choose to have any, what kind of a world they're going to live in?
Yes, and I'm so excited for them. Like, I really am, because like you said, I feel like those of us that are in between the ages of maybe like 33 to like 47, we are that generation that is doing a lot of, I call us the changeover children, meaning that we're the ones that came here to make sure that what our parents' vision was, like you said, they had to go through a lot of anger things and like fighting for certain things. So because they had to always fight for, things, basic living things, right? They didn't have the time to really focus on some of the stuff that we have time to focus on. So because we do have that space to do it, it does allow our children to have more of a proper choice at certain things. So when I think about, oh my God, my great-great-grandchildren, just how amazing intellectually they're going to be because they don't have certain barriers that they have to kind of fight for and move through. That just feels so good to me. It really does feel good to me. I'm telling you, like I've got goosebumps right now just thinking about it because I'm so excited for them,
Can we talk, since we're here, can we talk about trauma bonds?
Yes.
I know there's a lot of people who don't understand what that means. Maybe you can just stop by saying what that is and how people carry those things into relationships and what we can do.
Yes. So I would like to talk about trauma bonds from a perspective of the astrology as well.
Okay.
Because I think when we start to look at what we came here to do, right? And when you start to look at the generations, based on the generations of how we're coming into the world, we all have responsibilities of not only what we're doing for our DNA and for our family perspectives, but we also have change that we're making for the world as a whole space. So some of us that come in and we're experiencing certain things, we're not only experiencing to forward our own family perspective, but like I said, for the world. So a lot of the trauma bonds that we get. So first of all, trauma bond is when you are attracted to someone so strong and you almost feel like it's like a twin flame relationship. They may be finishing your sentences. They may be thinking about you when you're thinking about them. It feels very similar to a past life love or past life thing that you've experienced. Like you've known this person way past just meeting them. So it can feel tricky because that's also how some of our, like I said, our twin flames or, the people who we feel like we're supposed to be with forever, it feels very similar. But what happens in a trauma bond versus, we'll just say, a twin flame relationship, it tends to go sour very fast, meaning like within the first month or 2 months, you start to notice that those things that drew you together is now sparking a lot of arguments. It's starting to maybe bring up some things that you've experienced in your childhood or experienced in past relationships. And the reason for these things, or the reason why trauma bonds come up, is because you're here to transpose or transform whatever happened in your DNA. A lot of the things that we experience experience in these trauma bonds and these trauma relationships mirror a lot of things that have already happened in our lives. Meaning, like, we grew up seeing our parents fighting, and so now we're noticing that we're fighting now with this person who we loved so hard for the first month or 2 months. And then I'll say this too: sometimes trauma bonds won't go sour in the first month or 2 months. Sometimes they'll go sour after 4 or 5 years. And what I mean is, you just have to be conscious that when the trauma comes up, to understand where it's coming from and not to keep reflecting it back on your partner like it's them doing it to you, and start to look in your chart. Now, this is where the chart comes in, because most of the people who come into your life that are trauma bonds, in your chart, they will show up as, Saturn placements. They may sometimes show up as chirons in your chart too, meaning like your chiron, whatever your sign is, they have that exact sign. Chiron is a placement that we call the wounded healer. So its job is to make sure that you get healing from your wounds. So when you have people who show up that sit on your chiron, or they should sit up in your moon sign, or it's just certain aspects in the chart that can prove that the relationship that you're in is only to transpose the trauma that you've experienced in your childhood, or that your family, your mom or your dad, somewhere in your bloodline has experienced the same exact thing, the exact same way that you're experiencing it right now.
I'm learning too. I'm thinking of all of the relationships of mine that were similar to this.
Yes.
Like, it makes so much sense.
Important. And I think a lot of people tend to run away sometimes from their trauma bonds. And what I mean is it'll show up and they'll keep like, oh, I'm breaking up with him. And then they'll get in another relationship. And then it shows up again. Oh, I'm breaking up with him. And they're dismissing the common denominator between all those relationships, which is you. You're the common denominator. Those men or those women or those people didn't grow up together, so they don't have the same parents. So how is it that you're experiencing the exact same reaction in a different person? You have to start looking at that as being the universe talking to you. That's you now. It's a reflection that you now have to look at in yourself and say, hey, wait a minute. Maybe this is showing up because it needs my attention. And maybe it's also showing up because my mother struggled with it, and my grandmother struggled with it, and my great-great-grandmother struggled with it. So maybe that's why, especially when I see a lot of my clients that come to me and maybe they've experienced like rape in the relationship, or, abusive types of things in the relationship. And then I'll ask them, hey, did your mother have this same reaction with your father? Or they'll say, well, no, it wasn't with my father, but when my father left, it was with the first guy that came in. This was what happened, and I'll be like, oh, okay, so do you have a relationship with your grandmother? And I'll start to like go down the rabbit hole with them to get them to see that a lot of things that we're experiencing in our traumatic relationships is not even necessarily for us. It's just for us to clear it. You know what I'm saying? Because your mother couldn't do it. She didn't have the strength to turn it over. So to keep it from now going further down into the DNA, to keep it from happening to your daughter or your granddaughters, then you have to face that it's something that needs to be shifted in the DNA, which is you. You have to shift it.
And how do you do that?
That's what the chart comes in. So, right, you can start to look at the aspect of how is it being triggered. Well, what I mean is it an emotional trigger? Is it in the relationship? Is it in the money? Like, where is it showing up that this is a trauma cycle? When you look at it, the chart is going to give you information about your own past, meaning whatever sign is in that particular aspect. So let's just say you're dating somebody and every time you date a man, he steals your money, right? If you look in your second house and it's giving you information about your money and your cycles of money, then when you go and start to study that, the universe will automatically start to move out these people out of your life. And what I mean is they're only there to get you to go and look at your money cycles. That's the only reason why they're there, to spark it. So the reason, the way to change it is to give reference to it. You got to look at it. You got to study it. What is it trying to tell me? See, what happens is we get triggered by something happens, and we point the finger at the person. And when we point the finger at the person, we never go and study it. We never go and see what's the root to it. And because we never see what the root is, we experience it again and again. It shows up again, but you keep pointing it at the part. Well, he did this to me, or she did, or they did this to me. You know, you keep going through these cycles of not looking at yourself. And when you start to study yourself, those trauma cycles automatically go away. They just don't show up anymore.
Yeah. I saw I saw a meme the other day that was somewhere on Instagram that said something along the lines of these experiences keep repeating themselves until you learn.
Yep.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That makes sense in that way.
That's exactly what that means. It's going to keep showing up to get you to see your power in it. And that's what I have to tell my clients, because a lot of them want to look at it like it's a weakness. No, it's not. If something keeps happening over and over and over again, that means, first of all, you're projecting it over and over again. So once you realize that it's your projection now, how do you shift it? Well, you shift it by ownership of the power, going to study yourself. How am I constantly attracting this? Where is this coming from? Oh, it's here to show me that I need to do A, B, C, and D. Oh, okay. Now lesson is over. Now, sometimes when you get over the lesson, retrograde to show up one more time just to prove to you whether or not you got it or not. And so when you like, oh, I got it, and then retrograde show up and it'll send you somebody to mirror something that you got over. Now that's going to be your test to see whether or not you got it or not. If you fall for it, you're probably going to be depressed for a little bit because you realize, I failed my own test. Yeah, it was your test, you know, to make sure that you keep and stand still in the ownership of who you are and what you know you need to produce for yourself.
Shit. That has touched me. Shit. Oh my word. Okay. Okay. Can we talk a little bit about Kinked Up ATL?
We can.
Yeah. So, yeah. What is it? No. And when did it start? And what's the inspiration behind it? And when can I come?
Well, let me just start with the last question. You can come, please come for 2020. I would love to have you. Kinked Up ATL is my new baby, and I say my new baby because she's only 2 years old. And she actually started out of just me being funny. Like, sometimes I'll get on Instagram and I'll think I'm a comedian on some days, and I'll start to just say these random things sometimes, and I don't realize that the random things that I'm saying, actually they have some truth to them, but it's like I'm testing myself, right? So I did that with this. I kind of put out there that I wanted to do something for one part of my sacred sexuality brand. I wanted to merge this idea of kink being the way that we get in the door, but once we get in the door, you know, when you start to really experience kink and those things, it started to open up a lot of emotional things for you, right? But we don't have a space, especially not here in Atlanta. I didn't think, you know, we didn't have a space to be able to experience kink and then have a space to cry it out and talk it out, like what's coming up and how is it coming up, why is it coming up, you know, those things. So what I did was I went on Instagram and I was like, hey, y'all, I think I'm going to have a dungeon party, you know. And so, and I was laughing about it. And then in my DM, I had all these women that were coming in and they was like, hey, please do it because I've been looking for a space. I really want to try some 50 Shades of Grey stuff, but, you know, I want it to be black, you know, or I want, you know, they wanted to have these experiences. And one of the things that I'm so blessed and so grateful at having is people trust me enough. When I say I'm creating a safe space, they come. So when they came and said, hey, if you do it, I'm coming, I was like, okay, well, let's see. Because people tell you all the time they're coming to stuff. They don't necessarily show up. So I did it anyway. I put it together last year as a 2-day event. I'm very serious about education, especially when it comes down to sexuality. Like, to me, I feel like where I am in my sexual energy is because I started very early reading about sexual education and just reading about sex stuff. So I did one entire day of just education, meaning like I invited different people or just different friends of mine that I work with on the Exotica circuit, Hev, you know, Tyomi, Davia, all of them I was talking to them about it, and they all decided to come for the first year.
Bless.
And I know, right? And they came, and so they did demos. And so those demos, we allowed people to get a chance to really learn what these different types of kinks were and not just experience them. And so then we had day 2, which was at the dungeon, where people can come and really either get private sessions from those people, those practitioners that did the demos. They can get private one-on-one sessions, or they could just play, meet people, other people who want to also play and try kinks and try different things out. You can be nude if you want to, because I'm a nudist at heart. I hate clothes. So it was just a space for us to do all those things. And so I'm expecting maybe 15, 20 people show up. I had about 80 people to show up on year 1.
Word.
I know. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, is this really happening? Like, people really, really want a safe space to do it. So first year was really good, like I said, and it was so good to where, like, the first couple of hours in the dungeon, everybody was like looking at each other because we were shocked that we were all there. And then by the time we warmed up, it was over. And so year 1, it was like everybody left in such a high. We didn't have a space. I felt like we didn't have a space to really just talk about what happened. So I was like, okay, year 2, we're not doing that. So this year, I expanded into 4 days. We did the same first 2 days that we did for the first year, the one whole full day of education. Then we did the whole dungeon on the second night. But then this year, I decided to add 2 days, 2 additional days. So the third day, we did a sacred sexuality only day. And what I mean is, that was the platform for us to now talk about. We've had a whole day of doing this physical kink type stuff. Now, how can we now open up the door to really talk about our emotional shit? How can we dump all of this stuff out, right, and go home without carrying this heavy shit back with us? And so we did that, and it was so beautiful. I mean, we had way more men this year to show up, and then on the sacred sexuality night, they talked about some of their traumas, and they talked about how they have sometimes stepped over the boundaries of women's giving them the consent for sexuality in some spaces. Like, they owned up to the things that they felt like they had did. And when I tell you, it was a wave in that room, like, oh my God, this is happening. So we start to see the healing come together after the 2 days of kink, which is what I wanted from the beginning. But I knew if I had said, hey, let's just do a day of sacred sexuality, people don't really want to talk about their shit. They really don't, But what'll happen is, if you tell people, hey, let's fuck or do some sexual shit, oh, they're running the door then. But Kinked Up ATL is for you to come and experience kink and learn about kink, but it's really for you to come and drop off your shit. It's for you to come and really let go of all of these sexual blocks that you have, so that you can have a really good sexual life. Because what happened after, everybody was being transparent about us not getting enough hugs and touch and that kind of stuff, because Shayla did an amazing class on Saturday talking to us about the fact that we don't hug long enough. Like, it takes at least 20 seconds for you to feel the actual chemical exchange between two people hugging. So we learned how to hug, which people don't do that, right? We hug, oh, hey.
Yeah, it's a real quick, like, pat on the back.
We're not exchanging any type of love in 5 seconds. It takes 20 seconds. So we did that. And when I tell you, after we did all the classes, we had a lingam massage demo. We had a yoni massage demo. But after the classes, when I tell you, people went off and had them some good old fucking good time. It was really beautiful to just watch. To watch people share what their problems were, get some touch and attention, get some hugs, watch some demos, and then feel free enough to go off and engage in sexual activity. It was just amazing. And then the last day, we did massages. We talked about our weekend. We had some good food. So I cooked some good country soul food, but I cooked it all vegan, for everybody.
Yes.
I know, right? And we did it in this church that had been turned into like this Airbnb. So the last day was like church for us. And we just ate and talked and just had an amazing good time. So Kinked Up ATL is turning into this amazing community. I talked to Jesset and Jasmine. I told her I want them to come for 2020 to be a part of it. So we're just growing, and I'm so excited that people are coming because they really want to tap deeper into their own sexuality, which is what I desire. So I love it. I love what it's going
love
into.
it. So I don't know why, 'cause I feel like I see so many things happening in Atlanta, and I always imagine that you're the one who's running them. But like I thought, like it was an event that happened more than once a year.
People want it. Like, I've had so many people since, like, me doing it for the first year say, hey, how can we do this more? And I'm like, listen, it literally takes so much work out of me to do this, to where I know in this, and kind of like, how you do the spread fest, like you can't really do that every month. Like, girl, that would be a lot, right? But
oh my God,
we can do little small satellite things. So like, I'll be doing smaller community types of events for us to like, come and talk about our sexuality. And I have other people that are on the team, like Shayla and Kadesh. All of these people have their own businesses too, in some lane of sacred sexuality or just sexuality in general. So I feel like if I support them and encourage them to do things too, it could be ways in which we can kind of keep smaller things happening as we're getting back to the big event, which is the 2020 event.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Sounds amazing. And also draining.
Yes, it is. But then when I tell you it's so worth it, like the first year when it ended, I ain't gonna lie, I was crying. And I was crying for two reasons. Because I was high on the energy, but when I tell you the work that it took for me to just get people to see the vision. Because the first year you do it, people hear you, but they don't know what you're trying to do. So I didn't have as much help the first year as I did this year. This year I had, people coming in, like they wanted to do the work. Like, hey, how can I help? So this year was even better for me. So I didn't cry this year, which is good. But it was just good. It's just really, it's worth it, And
This was year 2 or year 3? This was year 3.
This is year 2.
Ooh.
This was year 2.
Wow.
I know it feels like it's already like this baby she's ready to run. You hear me? I mean, even people have said, hey, can you come do one in New York? Can you come do one in LA? I'm like, wait, hold up. First of all, can we just build this one here in Atlanta? And if the people who travel to the one in Atlanta, if I see we have a bulk of people coming in from Texas, then of course it would be great for us to do a kinked up Texas, you know what I'm saying? Or a kinked up Kenya, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, it's so much stuff that we can do with this, you know what I'm saying? So I'm always open to anybody who wants to like partner in like, I love curating events. So if anybody wants to partner on doing something that's their baby or their brand or their vision, or even wanting me to come in and help them with that, like I'm always down to do that kind of stuff, because I know people need activity for life. Like, it just makes us better in life when we're doing these types of things.
Yes, bless you, and I hope your hands are continually blessed for all the work that you do. Wow, that's amazing. Yes. So how can people reach you?
You can reach me by literally, you can Google search I am living aligned, or you can type in Gigi Robinson and everything will pop up. But I am living aligned on Instagram. Same with Facebook. On Twitter is Aligned Goddess, or you can just go to my website, IamLivingAligned.com, and everything is there, including links to get to Kinked Up ATL for 2020 if you're interested in that. It has its own web space and its own page, but of course you can get to it from going to my main website. But yeah, just literally type in Gigi Robinson, Gigi Robinson, and all the details will pop up. If you guys are interested in doing any type of astrology reading, whether it be from just learning your entire aspects.
Do you do Skype sessions?
I do Skype sessions. I do.
This is perfect.
Yeah, so if you're interested in, from just the astrology aspects of it, or maybe you have a business idea, you want to, start to really get into your own business. I can help you formulate the way to step into it. Sometimes we just need a little push. So I'm really good at helping people to get activated and started on their journeys. Or it could be in sacred sexuality. Maybe you have some sexual blocks, some traumas, molestations, rapes, things like that I can just help you to understand why you. A lot of people just don't understand, why did that happen to me? And through me using the astrology chart and then just me intuitively reading you, I can give you the understanding of why you have the cards that you have in this life. And once you understand what your cards are, you become boss of those things. You no longer feel like you were dealt a bad hand.
Like a victim.
Show you. Yes, I can show you no matter what hand you have, that it is a perfect recipe of having the best life. So that's what I Am Living Aligned is for.
Okay, and I'm going to put all of these details in the description box below, just so that people can go and click directly to anything that you need. I Am Living Aligned.
Yes.
But
it's been great.
Right? Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I don't. I'm just looking forward to, more of just building with you as well.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to, like, even when I met you when you came to Sex Down South.
Yes.
I was just like, oh my God.
Even though we didn't spend much time together, but I will be at Sex Down South again in 2020. So
good.
Yes.
So we can talk more, because your energy is just amazing. I just love how you just walk in a room.
Oh,
so just
bless.
Thank you so
I appreciate
much.
that. I appreciate that so much.
For this opportunity to talk to you.
And thank you.
And I think that what you're doing in Kenya is so amazing. Please keep doing it. Anything that I can do to help you to further your agenda and the things that you're doing in your work, please let me know. Don't ever hesitate to just reach out, because I'm in it.
That means so much to me. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
You're welcome.
Ooh. That was a beautiful hour. That was an hour well spent.
It was.